So it begins. Chris Courtney here, New Pragmatic. It's Thursday, I think. Might be, might not be. Somebody said yesterday the only time that now exists is coffee time and wine time. I guess the only time that exists is Diet Coke time and Diet Coke time for me. But I got the sentiment. It's either you're awake or you're kind of just hanging out. Regardless of what day it is, it's always a good time to chat with you and look at your work and give you feedback on that work. We've got Luigi in here this morning. We've got Rebecca in here this morning. Thank you to Tejal for the shout out. Got a really nice recommendation from her yesterday over on the LinkedIn. Thank you so much. I certainly do appreciate it. One of the things I've been talking with Tejal about, not necessarily about giving me recommendations, but about her giving other people recommendations. I think it's a really good way to network in this hour of time where everybody's looking around. If you've got a colleague that you worked with back in the past, regardless of where it was, and they did a really good job on a professional level, on a collaborative level, I'd really highly encourage you to hop onto their LinkedIn, give them a recommendation. It's one of the ways that people filter out, how have the people you worked with, how do they talk about you? Most LinkedIn's, it's kind of funny. Most LinkedIn recommendations, you can tell when they're kind of forced, and obviously you don't want any of the forced ones out there on your profile, and you can always take those down if you desire to. But when people give genuine recommendations, it's pretty clear they're not entirely over the top glowing. I think it's the best kind of recommendations that you can get are the kind that sound truthful, that sound like, hey, you know what? This person's really strong in this area. Don't, when you're writing a recommendation, I guess what I'm really getting at is when you're writing one of these, don't write that this person's like the best person I ever worked with and they do everything great, because it's not possible. That's not possible. That's not how it works. All right? When you're giving a recommendation, I want it to be like, you know what? This person's really good at this thing. I remember I wrote a recommendation actually for Rebecca. I'll just share this with the group. This was back in like November. She was beginning to start her job search. By the way, each of you, if we've worked together for any amount of time, you can count on getting a recommendation from me. That's just a given. You've put in the time. I can vouch for what type of work or what type of designer you are at this point. But with Rebecca, the one thing that I really focused on, I didn't go out and say Rebecca's the best designer I've ever worked with. What I went out and said about Rebecca was Rebecca's tenacious. Like, if I wanted somebody to run through a wall, I'd want Rebecca to be one of the people I asked to do that. And that talks to somebody's work ethic, and that's something that can be sorely lacking. And if particularly if you've been an employer and you've had somebody that just kind of like was wishy-washy, and then you have a chance to get a Rebecca onto your team, you want that person. Rebecca's still got room to grow. I mean, and we're going to talk about some of her work today, and she knows that, and she does a really good job pushing every time I throw something at her. Not bragging on you, Rebecca, but you do push really hard. So when you're writing recommendations, I encourage you to take that similar approach. Like, what is this person really good at? What stood out about them? I remember I wrote one for Tejal as well, and I said, this is a person that's really creative, but she knows how to rein it in. She knows how to edit her ideas and make them better. That's really hard. I struggle with that. I struggle reining my ideas in. So when I see that in people, I go, that's kind of a hard thing to do. Maybe I should, write about that and write about how I, frankly, I admire that ability. So go out there, write those recommendations. This is basically the best way to do networking in in this environment where everybody's on some sort of stay-at-home order and lockdown. You can still network. You can still put out there that, hey, you know what, I'm looking around, and I guarantee there will be a spike in people giving recommendations around this time, no doubt. But there's nothing wrong with going out and giving somebody a recommendation if they truly deserve it. I'm not saying go out and give recommendations just for the sake of giving recommendations. Um, and I think everybody's personal online persona, your LinkedIn, benefits from giving and getting recommendations. Um, a lot of times I'll go and like look at the given, and I'll see like who are they giving recommendations to, and I have more recommendations that I've given than I've gotten. So mine's lopsided that way, but it's the nature of my job. I being a manager for 15, 20 years, you give a lot of recommendations. But that said, I also get recommendations back from some of those people, and the good feeling there is I never ask for the recommendations. It always feels good to give them, and you'll feel better. You'll feel good about hey, I did something positive. I gave somebody a slap on the back in public, and well, don't slap them too hard, but pat on the back, just a pat on the back. Anyway, let's jump in though. I sometimes go a little rambly. Today we've got Luigi and we've got Rebecca. And Rebecca, you had a number of different questions, and I want to start over here. I do not know if I've got your care site. Actually, I'll just go in here. I'll go in here and look. Yesterday, by the way, I checked out this spell inspector. I don't know if anybody caught yesterday's feedback loop, but I've used a number of these Figma spell checkers, and I found Spell Inspector to be really interesting because it gives you a wide variety of possible options. So, like, there was a reference of paleo in here, and it like pulled up. Did you mean pale? Even when I don't misspell the word, I like it that it sees like, oh, well, this could have possibly been one of these other things. The reason I say that is there's a lot of times contextually you won't misspell the word, but you will misuse the word grammatically, and I like the fact that it spots a lot of that. If you use the word here and you spelled it HEAR, here means like listen, but I meant here as in location. It'll spot some of that. So good up on Spell Inspector. Take a look at that, but that's not why I came over here. I'm going to go back to my recents. I'm going to see if I can find Rebecca's care site. Care site. Okay. Good. At least I got a version of it. Rebecca, you were asking about finding earlier versions of the site. Now, one thing that I know we have here is we have this early version of the site. But if we go into, well, how do I do that over here? If we go into, let's see, show version history. So this one has a 30-day version history. Now, it says that you can get an unlimited version history available to paid teams. What I've always struggled with here is I'm an individual. I don't necessarily know how I pay for Figma, and I've never really understood that as an individual user that I'm not on a team. I'm not sure how I can upgrade to the paid tier. Like, how do I even do that? I'm just by myself. And oddly enough, when I click upgrade now, it doesn't do anything. So you've got these saved versions, and nothing really changes for me between the two. What I want to do is I want to come over here to this component example. This is a project that I used for a video. And basically all I was doing in the video is I was making a lot of components because that's what the video was. But I want to see what version history pops up for me over here. And again, I'm going to File, Show Version History. And what it shows me is over the course of so here's some structural changes. And I can, there's not a lot of difference here. Here I can see that I drew a guide. Here I had a screen that I was working off of for the example, and then here I had like the basic keyboard that I pulled in. But it did 5 autosaves and saved all the components that I made, and so there's a lot of positive here. But a lot of people they're not even certain how this works. Again, it's just go to File, and I guess I'm currently in the version history. I think to exit this, I just go back to Edit Current Version. I just want to see again how that, because I know I've known that this is here. I just never used it. Show version history. Here we go. And so for whatever reason, I want it to edit current version. I'm going to see what happens. Interesting. So let's peek at this a bit more. Oh, okay. So let's see. Add to version history while editing. Okay, so I'm guessing this is going to be, so I'll say initial test screen and original file for demo. Save. Okay, so I've named like the version history, which is interesting. What happens here? Oh, I can duplicate this version. Okay, so because when I see restore, I don't necessarily want to go all the way back to here. I want to see if I can duplicate it. And what happens when I duplicate it? File. Oh, okay, so I duplicated the file, and I'm going to guess it duplicated at that moment. Yeah, duplicated at this moment. So this now is in its own file. And if I really want it to like tidy this up, I suspect what I would want to do here is I'll go back to edit current version, and I'll do old copy as a page, and then paste that in. And now I've got old copy as a page, and I can come back in. Here's still my components. Here's my page 1. This is kind of what I saw James doing, and I want to see if I can go over here and open, what's the name is Squawk. Yeah, here's Squawk. So James has done this really interesting thing along the way. Takes a second to open this one up. James has been saving his he's got a version history going on here in the file. And sometimes it's great to have this just in pages so that you can quickly go through, and everything's still editable, not editable. Everything is still editable here in a way that it isn't through version history. But if I went and said show version history, you'll see that there's 17 copies available here of his version history. So I know, and you can see he was working on it. The last time he worked on it was 2 days ago. So I know that James has a lot of work that he's done, but if you wanted to go back and get the work that he, saw on March, and what's interesting is if you look at the page, you don't really see a change here. You can kind of see where I've been in here tooling around as well. I do like the fact that you can see who was doing the changes. But you can go back and save up to 30 days for free, and that's pretty cool. I am still interested in what that Upgrade Now button does. I'll have to ping my folks over at Figma, because oddly enough, I have 3 students that work at Figma, and you'd think that I would have already figured this out. But I'm going to go back to edit current version. That is how you get into version history. Just, so at file, show version history. Just know that I also really like the way that James has tiered his edit history over here in pages. So he's just like, hey, I need a copy of this old version, and each day that he's done like significant changes, 23rd, 24th, 26th, 28th, 31st. And, these will never, the thing that's interesting there is over in pages, that stuff will never expire. Where the stuff that's in version history, if you don't have the professional tier, it's going to expire in 30 days. So, I love the Figma. If you end up on a team, I certainly hope that Figma gets money from you for being able to use it for free. I would be a paid user if there was an individual level. Figma, if you're listening, but I'm not sure how to even. I don't know how to give you money. that's ultimately what I'm saying, Figma. So let's go over here. So that's care site. You have a much more robust version of this. But the thing I would mention is I know that you have worked on that, recently. So March 4th was when we were working on this. I would go do that today, because your version history is going to start dropping off. So if this is an early version of it, you should go do that now. And because in your note you said, I'm looking to figure out how to add care site to my portfolio. I didn't document the changes. Is that something I can find in version control in Figma? The answer is yes. It was an interesting process. I want to write it in the most attractive way possible to a corporate company. Figma link to portfolio coming soon. Okay, awesome. Glad to hear that. But go today. Do not pass go. Do not collect $200. Just go do this. Make sure you don't have to do anything with it. Just copy those old, go through your version history and grab 2 or 3 copies and reorient your file so that over in pages you just make a version and name, give it the date, all right, or say sidebar, sidebar updates, or dashboard update, whatever the big change was. Think about this like GitHub, all right. This is like GitHub, except it's only for 30 days. But I got to tell you, as somebody who used to use Adobe products, and I used to have 20 updates to a Photoshop file, and if I'd made 20 changes, there was no going back and getting that, unless I had saved it as a different file name. And how many of us have original 2, original 2 update, original 2 update _3, I've had some really, really terrible naming conventions over the years. I've had some gigantic bloated folders of work because instead of having a version history like this, it was just a complete copy of everything over and over and over again. I've had gigs of files related to one illustration. And I can't tell you on a machine, 20 years ago what a gig of an illustration would do to your hard drive. Basically, you had this external zip drive. Anybody remember zip drives? Probably not. All right, so let's go ahead and close that down. Close that down. Close that down. We're not squawking, so we'll go to recents. And yeah, you can see I've been working on a few things. So let's take a look over at. So Rebecca had something else here as well. Um, so my click shift, yeah, my click shift is portfolio. Or sorry, Rebecca. My click shift was, if I remember correctly, you had Okta, you had Silicandy, and then you had my click shift down here at the bottom. Okay, so I am familiar. Don't take the yawn. That's not you. That's me. I was up way too late last night editing. For today, small project, but it might be good filler for the portfolio. Um, I've asked. I was asked by the developer to rethink his app based on ideas he had and competitive research I do. He wanted to change the direction of the app. His previous customers were nursing homes. Oddly enough, Shane Matthews, by the way, if you hear me talking about you, what's going on, man? Hope he's doing well. Good guy. Um, I was asked by the developer to rethink his brand or rethink his app based. Yeah, we read that part, Chris. He wanted to change the direction of the app. His previous customers were nursing homes, and he decided to move away from that model because they were very big and they have their own expensive needs. If you get one nursing home, you give a lot. If you get one nursing home, you give a lot to, then you lose them. You're underwater. Got it. Here are some notes. Focus on time blocking, payroll scheduling, employee management teams, small to mid-sized businesses that need to manage employees. Today, they punch cards in, biometric system, moving away from nursing homes because they're very big and they have their own needs. If you get one, yep. Better business model, go for a lot of little fish rather than one big fish. So, okay. So this is basically retargeting an existing system. It's basically like a pivot. Okay. So he had the system, and he decided that instead of trying to customize it for a nursing like instead of trying to customize the platform for one potential user that has like a lot of unique needs, he wants to go after a lot of businesses that will take it just off the shelf. And that's a profitable business model. If you can create one thing that a lot of different businesses can use without having to constantly reconfigure it, it's kind of like restaurants that sign up for OpenTable. They don't often get a lot of customization. They just get OpenTable, and they get access to OpenTable, and it's relatively cheap. And OpenTable takes a little off the top. So if you sign up, like my understanding is, like with OpenTable is as a restaurant, if you sign up for OpenTable, it's free, but they get like a percentage of each booking. So if you don't get any bookings through it, hey, it's free to you. But if you get bookings, then it costs. It's kind of like I use Stripe, all right, and Stripe is free to me, but each time I get a booking, Stripe gets a bit off the top of that. So I get the business model, so I can see why he would want to like nudge it that way. My idea was to take advantage of the hole in the market, make something super mobile friendly, potentially a local watch system the employer could buy instead of an app. Local watch system. I'd be interested in knowing more about that. I'd rather write everything in the portfolio short and sweet. Okay. I I am interested in knowing, you know, was there a restructuring of like like I see that you've gone through and you've got like competitive analysis on, his main competitors. You got like 6 pages here. Um, I think I would write up a bit about, you know, like, okay, you've got the logos of who you looked at. What were the major what were the major issues that this would solve that those did not? What were the major benefits to using like a Workday? I'm familiar with Workday and some of the other ones that are listed here. Like there's Workday, and who else do you have here? I guess Workday is the main one that I know. I've heard of Kronos though as well. Um, but I'm not sure. I'm not sure how much more you did on it. But I do think that there's space in here for a research project. And what was your final deliverable? Did you know? I was talking with some researchers yesterday. They did some work with Wayfair. Oddly enough, I had 2 students that worked for Pratt Institute. Not worked for. They went to Pratt Institute, and they did a like 4 month long internship with Wayfair, and they they really didn't like show the deliverable. They kind of talked about the work, but the question was, what did you generate out of this process? Is what I was saying back to them, because I'm not seeing it. It's like you did 4 months of work and you're talking about the work, but I'd like to see the deliverable. That's the same question here. Is like, what is the deliverable? Do you have a deck that you made, and like you walked them through, like, okay, so here's what I'm seeing? Do you have like some interface? Like you said, you've got the mind map and um, logos and competitors. I'm just wondering what the other things are that any deliverables that you have. I'd like to see them, and uh, I think if you can put that together, it's a nice short case study. Okay. Um, Flipping this around, I did want to take a second to come back to Knife Doctor, um, because I noticed there was, Elementor has a lot of tools in it. I'm just going to log in really fast. Um, Elementor has a lot of tools in it, and I sometimes find that there are likely there are likely um, hoops that you're jumping through with a plugin that might already be solvable with just something that exists in Elementor. The one thing I wasn't sure about, and I want to go to all post, I wasn't sure where this WP reviews. You've got this review list. Okay, so it's review list. It's in here. I was curious. What was in my head is yeah. Rebecca's been doing face painting with her kids, so I know she missed the last bit of that. But I do hope that I do hope you're having fun. You can catch back up in a bit with the last bit. If I go into pages, what I'm really interested in, and this just dawned on me, because you've already like pulled in that information, I'm going to go into our test file, because frankly, having a test file just means it's really easy to come through and say, hey, let's go ahead and just test out this idea. I'm going to add a section, and what I'm curious about with Elementor is, if I add this WordPress reviews section, yeah, that's fine. Elementor doing its thing. If I add this, it still says edit header. Just for grins, I'm going to do this where we're going to add
Let's search for WordPress, or actually search for review. So I've got product ratings. I've got reviews. I'm just gonna drag this reviews slider in, and what I'm curious about is whether I can just insert. Yeah, I can do it that way. That's not really what I want to do, though. I thought that there was a way to connect to a, because you've got that database of reviews already in your system. Yeah. Oh, maybe it's down here. Additional options, paginations, dots, duration. No, that's not what I was looking for. Is it a? Let's see here. Recent product reviews. I'm going to drag this one on as well. Yeah, I'm not seeing how I would pull that in. I see number of reviews to show, and I guess that's fine. So I don't like that version. I don't like that version. Basically, we want to connect this with that set of reviews you've already pulled over. And I'm not seeing the... That's a Facebook embed. This is Facebook comments. Well, that's interesting. Okay, so you could pull those over directly from Facebook, but I'm not sure they're going to come through as it's going to grab just the reviews. It might grab the. It might. I would want to grab the reviews, and then I'd want to come into here and like style it, but. Yeah, I really want to pull from the review, the WordPress reviews. So maybe testimonial carousel is what I'm looking for. No, it wants everything to be hard coded in here. That's unfortunate. Okay, never mind. Scratch that idea. Because I don't want to get into the realm of, oh, now you got to copy that information in. Yes, you could do that. You could totally do that. But I'd much rather you be able to just use just pull from the information. Not that. I'd rather you be able to pull from the information. Well, not this either. So we'll come back to this. I thought there was an Elementor hack that was really that quickly there, although it may have been, and this is something else I've got to investigate. There may be a Elementor plugin that we need to pull over to make that happen. So just know that I think there's a way to do this in Elementor where you're not pulling in a third-party plugin. You can use the plugin, so you've got this WordPress reviews. You can use it because you've already created the list. What I'm simply trying to do is say, okay, the list already exists in your database. Let's just connect it with an Elementor plugin that already works, and just lickety-split, you're done. But we'll come back to that because I know our questions went a different direction this morning, but I wanted to kind of touch on that for just a second. Oh, sorry. Lots of activity. Lots of activity this morning over in the chat. It's good to see everybody kind of bouncing around. Let's get out of this for a second. Yeah, I'm going to leave that page. Thanks. I'm going to leave this as well. Version history. We're coming back over here to Luigi. And Luigi's on the hunt. All right. Luigi's officially on the hunt. COVID-19 hit Luigi right between the eyes. turns out you don't have to actually catch coronavirus to be impacted by coronavirus, because economically everybody's in a tailspin, and Luigi's gotten caught up in the middle of that. So my heart goes out to you, Luigi, but you're already in the program. So guess what? We're pushing forward because we know how to hunt for jobs here. And one of the first things I ask everybody to do is I ask you to go find 5 jobs that you're interested in, and I want you to be able to tell me why you're interested in them. It's not about, ooh, I've always wanted to work in that. It's about, okay, so what logically sets you up for this job? That's the mentality that we're heading in. We're not just kind of like randomly throwing darts. Every job we're looking at, we have to have a connection to it. Like, there's something in my background. There's somebody I know there. I've admired, like, there's something. What's the angle? What's the angle that we're gonna go with to talk to this company? So one of the things that I think Luigi has an economic background, data, statistics, public sector work. He was I think intern to the governor of Connecticut or something. So like public sector focused early on. The first job I see here is Catalyst UX. It says Figma Savvy Junior Designer. I like that because you're doing nothing but working in Figma here, and we're gonna, by the way, the components work and the feedback work, Luigi, I would continue pushing forward with that. As soon as we get you to a point where you can apply for jobs, I want you right back in components. All right. Because some of the stuff that we're releasing in interface design, I am super jacked up about it because I think it's going to help position you. You're not just making static pages in Figma. You're like really making things that you touch and move, and like we want that. It fits that job description. One of the things that I really like about this is fintech. All right, I can't tell you how many times I've heard that if you are a designer and you want to make a dent, you want to be somewhere that's stable, fintech is where to be. Robinhood app, SoFi's, things like that. This is Catalyst UX. I don't know anything specifically about this company. I like the space. I like the space and how it aligns with your background. I like the Figma angle. I think there's a lot of stuff that you can do there. And I'm seeing more Figma job postings. Seeing like more specifically this where it's in the title of the job post. You would not have seen that in 2017. Like when I began my shift to Figma, going on 2.5 years now, we're entering our 3rd year, really. 2017 to now, amazing growth of that product. So just know that if you're looking to grow as a Figma designer, you are in the right spot. And you're not really a Figma designer. You want to grow your knowledge of the platform, you're in the right spot. Because I'm really an HTML, CSS guy. But I respect the Figma. I do. So current product designer, I'm interested in for a number of reasons. So current is a challenger bank focused on working affordability and accessible financial products for those overlooked by traditional banking. This I really like because this has like that whole I'm going to reach out into the community and I'm going to make better. And I'm all on that plus your background. I think that the first two are definitely in the right space. Palantir, I'm gonna go jump down to J&J. I just have some issues with Palantir, but I'm gonna jump down to J&J. There's nothing wrong with working for J&J. And you have a background where you have done some stuff for CBS, so you can kind of point to that and point, and the CBS work. I've seen the CBS work in the portfolio that you've got a working portfolio. That working portfolio, I want to push with that, but I want us to circle back and I want us to level you up on a, you know, to where you have more control over your work. Right now, that portfolio is built through one of the what the portfolio builders, and it's like color by numbers, and there's only so far you can push that. Okay, um, but also the fact that you're into health and wellness, and we've talked about the New York Roadrunners uh, uh, engagement manager position that you had. I think there's a lot of things that you can talk about there. Not just, hey, I'm a designer, but hey, I'm a designer who's interested in the well-being of people. And as shown through the previous jobs I've held. Um, and yeah, the RGA thing. RGA is a really good company. They do a lot. They have a they have a lot of offices. There's a lot of growth there. I do like the fact that you have some design experience that goes outside of the digital realm. So you're outside the digital realm and you're inside it. You're kind of like Rebecca in that regard. Rebecca's done physical products. You've done like physical like pop-ups and stuff. So there's a lot there. So overall, what I like, Luigi, is that you've picked out jobs that are available right now, that you have an angle on, and now it's specifically about writing it. So the next thing I want to see from you is I'd like to see take Catalyst. Let's use Catalyst as the first one out the door. I'd like to see I'd like to see a cover letter. Like, what would you write to go along with your resume? And of course, we're working on your resume as well. What would you write to go along with your resume to send to Catalyst tomorrow? And tomorrow's Friday. Guess what? You ain't working right now. I'd like to see that back like today, tomorrow at the absolute latest. All right, because I want us to have another iteration on that, because I want to see if you can draw into the past of Luigi and pull out something that would resonate with them on a first go. All right, so remember your cover letter. It's like why they are great, why they're awesome, what is it about them that you think is amazing, how you can help, and then like links to your stuff. And I'd love to talk to you. So don't go in there and go, I'm amazing, you should totally hire me. I don't know what you do. Like, talk about like why you're awesome. I really want to apply to this because I admire, like, respect, connect, like whatever it is. Talk about that first. Don't talk about like I'm the best designer you've ever seen. Like, I've gotten those cover letters. Those are like head case. All right. Let's go over here to your portfolio. I know this is a working project. You have placeholders. You're going to add a freelance project you did as well. On mobile, it's cutting off the widescreen view, which I use for some images to make it. Okay, so I think I may actually have it open. All right, so I'm interested in what you're talking about on widescreen, or on mobile rather. Widescreen and mobile, they're different. They're just different. Okay. I would like to see this. I'd like to see greater separation. So you've got REI. Yeah, I see. I see what it does. It's like cropping to the center of the photo. It's just not giving you a lot to work with. So, retail, outdoor, community, find out campaign. I would flip this around. I know there's not a lot of content here, but I would flip this around. I would just simply say REA co-op find out. This campaign focused on celebrating curiosity, blah blah blah. We brought the campaign to life, and then I would do like an about underneath this that says about REI colon REI is a, and I would like put in italics like something to have it step away. But like this has nothing to do, and I hate Squarespace. This piece, I'm just gonna have to highlight it. This piece has nothing to do with your project. It has everything to do with the company. We've already identified the company, and so, you know, literally everything down to from here. I'm interested in everything here down. Okay. So I want to move all that up. I want to take this, like jettison it. I don't want to get rid of it, but I want to jettison it to the back of the bus. Okay. And yeah. So let's do that. Let's come back in. Let's go back to work. And again, we're going to come back and like rework all of this in HTML, CSS. I realize that it does some weird stuff there. So this is a little different. You talk about this a little differently. You don't like introduce who CBS is the way that you introduced who REI is. CBS recognizes the opportunity to deliver a more inspiring interactive pop-up. They expand Beauty IRL, highly interactive. Okay. Yeah, and like I would make this mirror like the REI thing. So if you had an about REI, it'd have about CBS, and you give the basic information about CBS there. So this is closer to what I would hope to see. I would also like captions if possible with these. Like, what am I looking at? You know, I do realize that it's kind of hard to. Some of these it's kind of hard to deal with because it just crops them strangely in mobile. Let's go out of mobile and see what we've got. And also the other problem that you've got is, you know, you're kind of trapped in gosh. Let's just refresh this. There's a all right, we're going to do this. Squarespace does not like being looked at in inspector mode. So yeah, it's like you didn't even see that she was standing there in their cropped mode. That's unfortunate. Getting some more control over this would be helpful. Giving, you know, captions would be helpful. Like the question I've always got with this is, okay, so what did you do? You didn't make the bus. Like, did you wrap the bus? Did you like help set up this branding wall? Like, what is it that you did as part of this? And I see creating hype and mobile retail store tour, and I see that. But what I'm really interested in is like, what was your contribution? How long did you have to work on this? How big was the team that you worked with? Those are all things that I don't know right now. So if I could get those things layered in here, this becomes a much more interesting story. Okay. All right. Let's just check general here. Yeah, we're cool, man. We're good. That's where I'm going to wrap it today. Chris Courtney here, New Pragmatic. The Nation. So good to have you along. I will chat with all of you again tomorrow. Same time, same place. Luigi, let's really like catapult this forward. Rebecca, get that version history pulled for MyCare my click shift, and then there was care, the other one. You've got two projects that we looked at. And then I still want to circle back on the fact that you've got that WP reviews. I know there's a way to pull that data into Elementor so that you're not like manually moving it over. but let's take a look at that as well. I know that wasn't quite on the docket today, but I'm not letting go of it. Okay. All right, ladies and gentlemen, Chris Courtney, New Pragmatic. I will chat with all of you again tomorrow. Take care.